A Thomas Kaminsky masterclass rescued a point for the town on a dismal afternoon of football at Kenilworth Road on Saturday as we drew 1-1 with Swansea City. Alongside me to review pretty drab afternoon is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, should we just play a review of the last four games and sod off down the pub?
I'll do me, mate.
Absolutely, yeah. We're not going to. We will look back on that afternoon and what it all means after this intro.
For me, it's the people and the spirit of the people as well.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in this year's Football Content Awards. This season, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned before the intro, we are going to look back at Luton Town 1, Swansea City 1. It's not really going to take that long, is it? Because it was one of the more mundane, horrible afternoons that any of us have experienced at Kenilworth Road for a while. Jimbo, it's going to be hard to be too positive in this podcast. So, the eagle-eyed viewers amongst you all will have noticed that we had a bit of paint missing from the wall behind us from when we redecorated it earlier in the season. And, Jimbo's given it a lick of paint. And if you can't bear to review that game that we just saw on Saturday, well, he's also set up a camera so you can keep your eye on how the paint's doing. And let's be fair, the comparison between the paint and yesterday afternoon is quite a similar one. So we'll see how that gets on. But 24 hours or so on, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, really quite concerned now.
Most concerned you've been?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt, because it was an afternoon where everything went wrong. Starting from when I got to the ground, actually. This might be funny for everybody. I think I'm coming round to this being funny. But I was at the bottom of Hazelbury Crescent, just about to cross over the main road outside, Sainsbury's, and there was a big puddle. I saw it. I clocked it. I stood quite a far distance away waiting to go over the road. This car was in the line of traffic, came out of that line of traffic, saw that puddle and sped up and got me. Absolutely drenched me. I was absolutely furious to start with, but I think it's quite funny, isn't it? That's quite funny. I mean, I was drenched and I wasn't happy about that, but come on, it's funny.
I've got to say, if I'd seen that would comfortably been the highlight of my afternoon. And quite honestly, I might not have gone any further. I might have the afternoon's peaked at this point. I'm off ski and I wouldn't have missed anything.
Well, I was considering it. Luckily, there's a radiator in the press room I got to, and I got there early because I wanted to see what the team sheet was, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But this car absolutely got me. I know he got me because he sped through the puddle, slowed down, and then once he got safe distance away, beeped his horn because he knew he got me as well. And so I was absolutely screwing about it. But I think you'll find if it happens to anyone else but you, that's funny, isn't it? Put it in the comments. I think we'll get that going. Is it funny? Is it not funny? Or do you just not care?
And if you are that person who happens to be watching this podcast, please let us know, because you're more than welcome to sit right here after when we review another boring game of football, which this was, wasn't it? You mentioned the team news. I mean, before we get onto the game, we hope that the person who was taken ill at the back of the Kenilworth stand is in good spirits and making a recovery, particularly. I mean, obviously this time of year is a horrible time for any time of the year is a horrible time for that to happen. But, obviously with Christmas approaching. So, yeah, we really, really hope that you're on the mend, and full credit to all of the paramedics and everyone who worked so swiftly to sort that issue out. Not overly sure why it had to take so long to be communicated to the fans that were inside the ground, but that's another story. One thing that didn't, though, was the team news. I said I'd cry if I saw a back three. I didn't cry because my eyes were watering enough because it was so bloody cold yesterday. Anyway, I don't think I could have cried if I tried. But we offered some hope, didn't we? Or we were offered some hope, sorry, after the Norwich game. A back four that worked fine. Structurally, it worked fine. Of course, the individual errors were individual errors. To go from there, then to go back to this back three, which hasn't worked for the whole of 2024, is just... Your shoulders just dropped as soon as you saw it. I kind of looked at it and I was kind of like, please let that be Moses left wing and someone like Clark right wing. But in my heart of hearts, I knew it was a back three. And then I got into the ground. Obviously, the warm-up was still going on because of the delayed kickoff, and the three of them were warming up next to each other, heading balls away. None of the three of them needed to head a sodding ball away all afternoon anyway because they kept it on the ground. So I don't actually know what they were warming up for that for anyway, but they were. And my heart sank. And I've got to be honest, nothing I saw from there onwards surprised me.
Yeah, me too. I so desperately wanted that to be a turning point. And I think what you were worrying about in the preview podcast, or maybe in the post-Norwich podcast, was that there was so much time had gone on since that game that it may have mellowed a bit. And, it you can see that that might have been the case, but also, I mean, we now know that Mengi wasn't in the side, and we'll come to that. Obviously, that seems like a mess, a real mess. And so whether he was dropped, well, obviously he had surgery, so just if you didn't know,
whether he would have been dropped or not, we don't know, do we? We're only assuming the fact that Chong was made his way to the bench, that he might have been. But yeah, I said it, didn't I? I wanted yesterday's game to be Tuesday night because there was just too long. And this, in the post-match press conference, that it's all on me as well, has annoyed everyone. It's worn too thin now. The pre-match press conference, we've had a great week of training, is following in the same direction, because every single time we hear we've had a great week in training, we stink the gaff out on a Saturday afternoon. But there was contradictions anyway, because we had a great week of training, and then 2 questions later, we picked up 2 freak injuries. Well, it couldn't have been that great a week of training if you picked up 2 freak injuries, one of which maybe it was an accident waiting to happen rather than a freak injury. We'll come on to that shortly. Chong was dropped to the bench. He had to be. He was taken off at half-time against Norwich. If he had started, those words would have been, I mean, I think they're null and void anyway now, but they really would have been. So it was a back three. Bell, McGuinness, who had a really good game actually over the course of the 90 minutes, certainly in comparison to the last 2 away games at least. And Holmes came in for Mengi, the right side of the back three. Hashi was right wing back. Moses left wing back, midfield three of Nakamba, Krause and Clark. Morris and Adebayo up front. Never really worked at all. Hasn't worked all season. Quite why we still think it's going to work now, I've absolutely no idea. Bell didn't look fit. Looked nervous every single time the ball went near him. I thought Holmes was all right, but again, on the ball, terrible. In fact, every single Luton player was terrible on the ball on Saturday. Can't blame conditions on that, because they played in the same conditions and they loved the ball, didn't they? Couldn't get the sodding thing off them for love nor money. It was just, what is going on? I mean, every single time. We're lucky that the 35 didn't fancy it, so Moses was kind of in control of the situation down that side. But every time they attacked, we either hoped that the shot would go over, which a few did, particularly in the first half when they had the wind behind them. Once anything was aerial, it was gone, wasn't it? Or Kaminsky had to bail us out. He made a brilliant save after about 5 or 6 minutes from yet another deflected shot that he's managed to push out. And at no stage in that game did you think we had any idea of what we were doing. There was no... Sitting there from the stands, there was no semblance of a plan. There was certainly no organisation in front of the back three. Can you really sit here and honestly remember a 5-pass move that progressed us up the pitch? The only time we put 5 passes together was going backwards, wasn't it?
The bar's becoming so low that I now don't sort of dream of 2 or 3 consecutive results in a row. I think I dream of 2 or 3 consecutive passes. It was that bad.
And you can count them on one hand, the amount of times it happens, I don't mind a progressive pass if, like, Krause goes back to Hashi for Hashi to go into Morris or something like that. That's fine if Krause can't get to Morris. We can't put 5 passes together full stop, but we certainly can't put them together going forward. And poor old Eli and Morris, I mean, the service was absolutely shocking. As I said, at Norwich, you could see what we were trying to do. You could see how we were trying to get forward, who we were using to get forward. Hashi and Brown one side, Bell and Chong on the other side, and the two midfielders were able to get the ball out wide to one of those two. There was no width yesterday. Any width that there was easily snuffed out. Hashi was in, was it Timon's pocket down the left-hand side? The right back had, well, he didn't really need to have Victor Moses. How many times have we said, if you're an opposition team and you see Victor Moses doing the bulk of his work on the edge of his own penalty box, you're happy days, aren't you? You want him on the edge of their penalty box. Never once really did he get on the edge of their box. Shanked a shot wide after about 10 or 15 minutes. There was nowhere near goal. Apart from that, from an attacking point of view, one of the most purposeful attacking players at the club was null and void. He's just defending all afternoon. What were we trying to achieve? It's hard to legislate for it. I mean, the only positive from the setup that I could find was that there were three midfielders, so at least we could have 3 against 3 in midfield. Not that you'd notice it because they still overran it, but apart from that, I'm struggling for positives in terms of the way we set up, and it's such a letdown after last Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I can fully understand everyone's views by that. Everyone seems to be quite angry, and I've got nothing to counter that at all, and nor would I want to, really. I think it was really poor. There's two different things here. Swansea are the third highest team in the Championship for possession. So I knew, and we all knew, that they were going to have a lot of the ball. That's okay. That can happen. And we've played the last 3 games have been against all the top 3 possession holders of the ball in the division. So we knew that they would have the ball. But then it's about, what can you do when you get it, or when you have any promising attacks? Leicester is the prime example, isn't it? They won the league on the counter attack. Won the Premier League on the counter attack.
We won promotion.
We've done it
largely off of that.
I'm not worried. I'm not particularly worried by those stats. They don't always tell a lot of the story. But there wasn't anything when Luton got the ball to latch onto and get any sort of hope. And you're just sitting there, and the Kenny was so quiet because there was nothing there. I mean, even when the goal's gone in, you think, we've had this before, the goal go in and maybe it ramps up a bit. And it didn't. It got a bit better in the second half, but the first half was really, really quiet because they just couldn't pass to each other. And too often it went long to nobody, and you're chasing nothing. And in contrast, Swansea, look, I'll caveat it again. They have a lot of the ball. They should be good with it, but they could play around Luton. They were playing. If your team was doing what they were doing, they were playing beautiful, pretty triangles around Luton, in tight spaces, in larger spaces, and completely overrunning Luton. And how many times have we seen this situation where the team has the ball? It seems so easy to get through Luton, through the thirds, and then the defending, if it happens on the last line, rather than there being a midfield challenge going in anywhere. And it felt like that. And I mean, even the goal came from a mistake from them, which is, that's rare, isn't it? It's usually, it has been in the previous week, Luton making the mistakes. And to be fair, Eli took it quite well. But then there was no kick on from that. There was no bounce from that. It was against the run of play, and the game just carried on in the way that Swansea wanted to play it. And it was very dispiriting.
I've said before, I can take us losing as long as there's a fight, an intent, a plan. I couldn't, someone messaged me last night and they said that they had a friend over who doesn't watch football very much, but went to the game with them, obviously, because, for company and things. And the friend asked the person who messaged me, what's Luton's style of play? And he couldn't answer because you're looking there and you're wondering what it is. Now, usually our style of play is to get the ball out wide, get crosses into 2 target men, and get on the end of it and score. Well, yesterday our two wide players, if indeed you're calling Moses and Hashi wide players, produced 7 crosses in 90 minutes, and only one of them was a completed one, i.e. only one of them found a Luton player. 7 crosses in 90 minutes. That is what we are. When we play this silly formation, we are all about the wing backs getting forward.
And this is the frustration, I think, when you and I mean, I'm getting bored saying it, but 3 hasn't worked at the back. But I think 3 is there to play into the talents of Alfie Doughty. Well, Alfie's not there now. So it's all very well saying somebody's got to step up, but nobody is at the moment. Nobody is. And, we're
getting worse.
We're over a third of the way into the season and nobody is stepping into that role. So the back 3, for starters, just doesn't work on that basis. But also we've seen the back 4 be much more effective on the rare occasion that has been used. So if Alfie Doughty's not going to go there, then I don't see the value in the back 3. So to see that for starters, but then, I don't think that Moses is a wing back. He's been a winger.
Well, he's certainly not a left wing back, is he? That's for sure. Yeah. But when we attack, they generally shuffle across and leave a back 4 when we attack. So why not start with a back 4 and have the people trying to win the ball high up the pitch? Because one thing I've noticed of Luton in the last 6 weeks is as soon as someone has the ball, we drop and we drop and we keep on dropping. You just look at Norwich's 3rd goal last week. Duffy's allowed to run 50 yards with the ball without a challenge. We drop. It was the same yesterday. Every single time an attacking player had the ball, we drop. And then when it finally gets to the penalty box, someone thinks about putting a block or a challenge in. It's so easy to go from the halfway line to the penalty box. It's untrue. At least in a 4 with 4 in front, there's another bank of players that person is going to have to get through from the halfway line before he gets to our penalty box. If we're going to go into a 4 when we're attacking, why not structure us from the start as a 4 and have that like we did last Saturday? Okay, I know Jack Stacey forced Tahith Chong back. Jack Stacey's a damn good right back. That's going to happen. But you're not coming up against Jack Stacey very often in this league. There's probably 4 or 5 of them at most that are as good as or in a class of him. And yesterday that wasn't the case. So we could easily have pushed Moses a little bit further forward, but we didn't. But you're right. We took the lead. Absolute mess from a Swansea point of view, wasn't it? The first time that Kaminsky actually played a short goal kick, and I swear to God, if he'd kicked another one to the halfway line, I'd have been somewhere close to kicking him towards it, because every single time ball got to the halfway line, it stopped and came back 20 yards. But he didn't. He rolled it out to McGuinness. McGuinness played the long ball up. McGuinness drilled it under the wind, didn't he? Darlin and Cabango have got themselves into a right mess. Eli's on the scene. Cabango's tried to give it back to the goalkeeper. Back pass is short. Absolutely no idea what the goalkeeper's doing. It seemed to go through his legs, even though he come out to try and clear it. And to be fair to Eli, from a really, really narrow angle, he's rolled that in nicely, because less confident strikers, or shall we say even Eli, who hadn't scored last week, probably has to dribble that in and allows it inwards to make the angle better, and then the defender's got a chance of getting back. But he didn't. He rolled that in from in those conditions as well, from a really tight angle. 1-0 up. I mean, it was undeserved, but we took it. But like you say, 5 minutes later, if the scoreboard wasn't working, you could have forgotten we were 1-0 up.
If you get given a gift like that, surely we're talking about a team that's so devoid of confidence. It's clear, and I'm not speaking out of turn there. Edwards has said that there's a confidence thing as well. Nearly every press conference I'm asking him about that, because it's one of those mystical things in football that how do you get that back? How do you instill it? Because when you're on a winning run, you can go and go and go. And as we saw in the promotion winning season, and it works in the reverse as well. When you're on a losing run, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And we're currently in this downward spiral of it.
Try someone else?
Well, yes.
I'm going to come on to his subs in a minute, because, I've been critical sometimes of his substitutions, and yesterday was an absolute horror show with regards to substitutions. But Pelly's there. I've never seen the geezer not have confidence. Has he got quality on the ball? No, but spoiler alert, look at the 3 yesterday. Neither did them. Cannot do any worse. You've got Nelson, who's been away with England under whichever age group, 20s or whatever it is. Seems a confident lad. From what I can see, all that he's done wrong in a Luton shirt was score that shit pinger at QPR, because no one seems to be allowed to shoot from outside the box in a Luton shirt these days. So what he was doing there, I don't know. But he looks absolutely fine. Get him in there. You know, there's two who were sat behind him yesterday. But it's all well and good hiding behind a lack of confidence. But what are we going to do? Are we just going to be unconfident for the rest of the season? If these people can't find confidence with the way they play, then interject someone else who might be able to breed you some confidence. You know, we're in that situation again now where we're going to run low on players, particularly defenders, which is unfortunate. But we're picking the same 5 people in front of them and nothing's happening.
Yeah, it's a viewpoint that I've heard a lot in the last 24 hours, and it's hard to argue with any of those people, because I think there's a sense that they're the senior players and they're the ones to play Luton back into confidence, but it's not happening. And yet we have to just deal with the realities of it. So this is why we're talking about formation all the time. That's not working. That's the reality. The players are unconfident, and even when they get a lucky break like they did for the goal, nothing changes. So that's also a reality of what we're seeing, and we can only do it by what we're seeing, because we're not in training every day and stuff, and that's usually the counter argument, isn't it? That the manager sees them in training, does X, Y, and Z, and maybe they're great, but on the pitch, on the day, on the match day, it's not happening. And so there's got to be a change there. And so when it comes to formations and picking players, obviously that's down to the manager, and you can see why people are furious. On the flip side of it, players not able to control the ball and pass it to their own players, that's nothing to do with Edwards.
Although a lot of the time people get the ball and there's no one to pass to because of the formation, which is down to him. So we're in a chicken and egg situation. I mean, how many times did Krause have the ball yesterday and he was looking forward and he was crying out for either someone wide to pass it to, but they had the 2 wing backs covered, or someone in front. He played a lovely ball through to Eli shortly after Eli scored, actually, through the outside of the boot inside the defender. And Eli, I don't know why, in them conditions, just put your foot through it. I mean, if you'd watched the Burnley game the night before, Roberts does exactly that. The wind catches hold of it and anything happened. In those conditions, just have a ping. But he doesn't. He stops again. Seemingly we can't, we're not allowed to shoot from a certain distance. Well, that's how it looks. He tries to get it closer and predictably runs into a defender and the chance is gone. But when you've not got much of the ball, when a ball like that's played through to you, just get a shot away, because, you know, it's the old adage, isn't it? If you don't buy a ticket, you're not going to win the raffle. And, well, we didn't buy a ticket, and lo and behold, we didn't win the raffle. And that was pretty much as good as it got, because for the last hour of the game, it was, when are Swansea going to score? When are they going to score? It wasn't anything else. I mean...
But even in the first half, they were getting in behind Luton. Their final shot or their final touch was off, or the player was off balance, and a couple of them went harmlessly into Kaminsky's arms. That should set alarm bells ringing, because yeah, the finish wasn't there, but they were getting in behind, and that was too easy. So I think everybody was sitting there going, when are Swansea going to score? And when they did, it was 64 minutes. You're like, well, that's the end of that then, because this Luton team currently aren't able to wrestle back any momentum at all. They're either on top or they're not. And there's no plan B, but it didn't seem like a plan A at that time.
Well, if there was, it wasn't recognisable, was it? And therein lies the problem. I mean, you could argue we should have been 2-0 up. Eli and Hashi play a lovely 1-2 early on in the second half. Eli gets a good shot away, and the goalkeeper, who made a complete cock up for the goal, rectifies the situation with a really good save, pushing it around the post. And that was the last time we looked at their goal, really. And I mean, their goal's annoying in so many ways, not just because it was coming. How many set pieces do we have to switch off at before everyone switches onto them? We'd switched off a corner on the other side where they tried the Middlesbrough trick, the dish to the edge of the box, and luckily the pass to the edge of the box was nowhere near the player on the edge of the box, but we were nowhere near covering that either. And then on the other side, I mean, it's just a straight pass to the bloke. not only to the bloke, but to Matt Grimes, one of the technically best players in this league, who's been in this league for a long time because he's played against us for Swansea for 4 or 5 times. And he's left unmarked on the edge of the box. I think Rob said something along the lines of someone was lined up wrong, which has to be Krause because he was the person at the front. But no one in the middle is screaming at Krause, get across a little bit, get across a little bit. They're just letting him stand there. So you can't, if the geezer's behind him and he's standing in what he thinks is the right line, much like a goalkeeper would set his wall up, move him across. He doesn't. It comes out to Grimes, and you give someone of that quality in this league, and we've had it with Barry Bannon in that very same goal earlier this season. You give someone of that quality with that sweet a left foot a free shot at goal from 18 yards. If you don't think it's ending up in the top corner, you are naive to the extreme, because that's exactly where it's going to end up, and it did.
Well, first of all, to any Swansea fans, that guy is a quality player. He looked fantastic, and Ian was wonderful as well, and a couple of others were. But you're right. How many times have players been left on the edge of the box from not only corners? Franco had a couple of shots in the whole game on the edge of the box, nobody there. But if you're taking a corner and it gets to a man he was on penalty spot, I think, wasn't he?
A little bit further out than that.
Along the ground, and nobody's there at all. And they still weren't when he got there. I mean, to be fair to him, he took it first time, didn't he? But he could have taken 3 touches. There was nobody near him.
But you know what was worse about it, Jimbo? It's a left-footed corner. The wind is going from the Oak Road to the Kenilworth end. There is no way that ball can go anywhere near our 6-yard box, because the wind's going to push it away from the 6-yard box, and the natural angle that he's swinging the ball in from is an outswinger. Yeah, we've got everyone lined up in the 6-yard box. At which point does someone think, do you know what? He's going to struggle. The only way he's going to put that ball in the 6-yard box is if he did what Liam Walsh did in the last home game, and it curls out before it comes back in. Otherwise, it has to go to the penalty spot. There's no way of keeping it. In those conditions yesterday, there is no way of keeping it anywhere closer, because everything was being swept towards the Kenilworth end. You saw it with the goal kick that they took 5 minutes from the end. It left the penalty area and ended up somewhere in Bedford. At what point do people think, I know this is my job and my zone is on the edge of the 6-yard box, but there is no physical way that this corner can possibly find me. But he's not only is he the danger man, he's the best player on their team. I'll use my noggin and I'll get out to him. And if I get a bollocking from the manager after the game because I've left my zone, then so be it. But I'm going to use my own initiative that ball cannot come here. I'm going to go there.
That's a confidence thing, isn't it? And there isn't any. There's no confidence in the team. And I think it's really concerning, because it wasn't just Grimes. There was a couple of people on the edge of that box.
There were 3 of them.
So what
from every single corner?
Yeah. So what I don't know what the thinking is there. And his shot is so good. He's lifted it over the wall of Luton players that were on the 6-yard line. But for me, that corner that should not be getting there to him. You should be spotting those. I don't know if there was a penalty shout immediately before that Swansea had, didn't there? Whether they'd taken their eye off the ball there. But how many times has the eye coming off the ball? And yeah, at 64 minutes, you're thinking, well, this is only going to go one way. So, I mean, if you really are looking...
Oh, that's a positive,
if you're looking for positives, and you have to squint to see the positives, that a team that dominant should be winning the game. But it wasn't because they weren't trying, and it wasn't because they didn't have a chance, because they did right at the death. Eom, I think, had a header who should have buried it, unmarked again. Where's the marking? They had their chances in the same way that Hull should have come away with 3 points and didn't. So to say that it's a positive is really
clutching at straws.
It's not really accurate to say that it is a positive, because you've just ridden your luck. Whereas if you shut them out and shut them down and they didn't have anything, you can go, oh, that's a good point. And this is where we are, isn't it? Because normally in a situation where the totally dominant side, you're playing a totally dominant side and you've eked out a point, in normal circumstances, you might go, oh, okay, well, we'll take that. It wasn't great. We move on. But they had loads of chances. They missed them, which is probably why they are where they are. They're a mid-table team at the moment. If they had a couple of players that could put it in the onion bag, they'd be higher up because they don't give you the ball. But yeah, to say it's a positive is really stretching the words. A lot of heavy lifting in that word, because that Luton got away with that, to come away with a point. That's where we are. It's not a really positive place to be.
No, it's not. I mean, to say that they missed their chances does Thomas Kaminski a disservice as well at the same time. I mean, before the goal, Franco's curled a 20-yard effort, 25-yard effort. I couldn't see from the Kenilworth end just how far out he was, but Kaminski's got absolutely zero right to save it because it's a peach of a curling shot, and I don't know how he gets there, but he gets there and pushes it around the post. And then shortly after the goal, Morris plays us into all sorts of trouble. The counter-attack's on, the geezer's put through one-on-one, and thankfully Kaminski's legs bail us out of trouble. But for Kaminski, yet again, we lose the game of football. And I mean, we must be 4 or 5 times that Kaminski's been man of the match in home games this season. I mean, if that's not a red flag, what is? You don't want your goalkeeper to be man of the match in a home game. Away from home, you expect your goalkeeper to have to do a fair bit of work to get you whatever you get away from home. That's the nature of the beast. At home, if he's the man of the match, that either tells you that the opposition have been way too on top, or your outfield players have, not put the required amount of performance in. No, on this occasion, it happened to be both, didn't it? But there it is. I mean, we're sitting here now in disbelief that we've got a point, happy that we've got a point, because things could have been a heck of a lot worse if we'd not got that point. But we are in all sorts of trouble here because we are getting worse. And hope that was given to us last Saturday is gone, just from the team selection. We now can't pick a back four even if we wanted to, because we've lost Bell, the only one other than Doughty who can play left back, unless he throws Joe Johnson in. Doesn't seem to want to do that either. And I'm really getting worried about Rob's in-game plays now as well. I didn't really reference it last Saturday, but I thought the Corley Woodrow coming on for Jacob Brown sub was weird. When you're 2-2, surely that should have been marvellous, and make sure you get your 2-2. And if you can scramble something going forward from a set piece or whatever, then okay. Yesterday, he had to make a change. Amari'i Bell went down 10-ish minutes from the end, something like that. It looks like his hamstring's gone. That's him done for a little while. Now, Rob of old will have brought a forward player on and tried to win the game. So he's got Chong. Now, I know Chong's in the bad books, and no one said he should never come on the pitch yesterday, but we didn't want him to start because of the words and everything else. But the game was crying out for Chong to carry us up the pitch a little bit anyway. So the Rob of old would definitely have brought on. If you think back to his first home game, we've just lost Osho. He takes a midfielder off and he puts a striker on. We go and win the game. Instead, he brings Mads Anderson on, who, if you watched the Celebrity Cyclone on the Jungle, it looked like he was playing football on that. It was, no disrespect to him. He hasn't played much football. But I really do think that the Rob of old would have brought a more attack-minded player on. Now, he had Chong, he had Nelson, he had Pelly, he had Woodrow, he had Taylor, all 5 of them. And he brought Mads Anderson on. And also, Jimbo, he's got all 5 of those players behind him in a game that we've never looked like winning. Showed no intent to win, really. At home, where he's referenced beforehand, home form's got to stay good because the away form's struggling. And he's finished the game having made 2 subs, not 5 subs, just 2 subs. Still got a substitution window left to make another sub or another 3 subs. And he leaves them all on the bench. That to me is muddled thinking at best, and we really can't afford muddled thinking in this situation right now.
I think that's probably what it is, because when things are going right for you, you make a positive change. And if you're talking about the Norwich game where Woodrow scores the winner, that set the tone for the promotion winning season. And now it's, I don't know where you go with it.
That if you're Luke Williams, the Swansea manager, when he sees Mads Anderson coming on, immediately he is told Luton are playing for a point. And then, like you say, Eom came on, a couple of other forward players come on from them, and they kept on going. If you didn't know where Kenilworth Road was situated in this country, you would have thought Luton were the away team yesterday and Swansea were the home team. Just by the balance of play. Forget the fact that they have possession and all this, that. Just where the game was played. It was never played in their half in the second half at all from the minute that Elijah shot happened.
Yeah.
And that can't continue.
No, it can't. Do you remember the 5 minutes where we didn't have an injury crisis? A glorious 5 minutes about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was heaven, wasn't it? And now we're in an injury crisis again.
Possibly the worst one we've been in. And that's saying something, because Doughty's out till the new year. We don't know the update on Rue Waters, but we're presumably not going to see him much before the new year, given that we're recording this on December the 8th. There's only 23 more days of the year left. Bell, not going to see him until the new year. Mengi might not see again this season. We'll come on to him in a moment. Walsh, Baptiste, that's 6, potentially 7 players. I mean, they wouldn't all start, but they certainly bolster the squad, that is for sure. And I mean, right now, the only way I can see us not getting into... I mean, I said, didn't I, a few weeks ago that we're not in a relegation battle. That was because those players were on the horizon to come back. And when they came back, I fully expected results to pick up and we would be absolutely fine. I got the latter bit wrong. But now the players aren't even there to come back. We're missing Reece Burke like we've never missed anyone ever. I mean, I've seen people... recency bias or whatever, calling Ted and Mengi our best defender, not even close. Reece Burke is the best defender this football club has, and that is not even close. We've potentially got a busy Christmas period coming up. We're not going to change formation now, are we? Or if we are, it's only going to be as a token gesture with a back three that's going to have to be Mads Anderson, Mark McGuinness and Tom Holmes for as long as those three stay fit. And let's be fair, with Mads Anderson's injury record, no one's expecting him to get through to the new year without an injury either, particularly having not played so many games for such a long period of time. And now we've got, 6 between now and January the 1st. It's looking like right now, sitting here as a Luton fan and a concerned Luton fan at that, and I stress as a Luton fan, and again, nothing to do with the trust, as a Luton fan, this geezer from Sweden, he's got to be a mixture of Rodri, Zinedine Zidane, Iniesta and Ross Barkley to get us out of a hole, because otherwise we are in trouble. This squad needs so much repairing, it's untrue. There is no pace to it whatsoever.
I mean, that's a major issue at the back now. They've got the players that are playing no pace. With Bell going, there's no pace.
But will we drop deep and allow for that? I don't see it. We haven't dropped deep all season. We're just leaving the space in behind.
But listen, also, if people are expecting Fanner to come in January and change everything, he's not.
I'm not expecting that, but he's going to have to right now, isn't he?
He's finished the season. He's on a break. He'll have a pre-season-ish and have to come into a new country, a new way of playing, a new club which are down on their luck and unconfident. If he comes in and is a world beater straight away, I'll eat my hat. I don't have a hat, by the way, so I'm not going to be doing that. If anyone wants to call in a receipt on it, I'm just saying it's a figure of speech. It's just not going to happen that's going to be the case. And so then you're looking at the window, whether they'll do anything there. Traditionally, haven't really done a lot, but I think it's at the stage now where you're looking at injury crisis, a group of defenders who've got no pace, a midfield that isn't currently working. Thankfully, the strikers are chipping in with a couple of goals, and Eli looks like he's got a bit of confidence back, which could be good. But everybody knows that Luton have Premier League money. This was half the problem in the summer window, what one presumes. There's going to be a premium on good players in the January. So if you're pinning all your hopes on business happening in January, I don't see the past track record or evidence that would be the case. So you've pretty much got these players unless something really drastic happens. And that is worrying. And on top of that now, I mentioned at the top of the episode that I'm really worried now because there's all of that to contend with, the confidence issues. But now the teams at the bottom below Luton have started unbelievably picking up, QPR smashing 3 past Norwich and Pompey winning as well. And they're picking up as well. So there was a question in the pre-match press conference whether Luton are in a relegation battle. And Edwards is damned as if he is or damned as he isn't when he answers that, because you can't say yes, that damages your confidence. You can't say really no, because the evidence. So it's sort of like we're not really thinking about that. We'll go one game at a time. But for me, and for nearly everybody, I think, this is a relegation battle now.
Till we pick up 3 results in quick succession. And I mean, let's be honest, who sees them coming? I mean, is it 5 games from now we go to Swansea, apart from a run around? Does anyone see us getting anything there? Absolutely not. Even if our away form was good. You just got to look how they've just played on our own patch. They're going to absolutely dominate us down there. And that comes 3 days after a trip to Bristol City. You know, with the problems that we've had with 2 away games in quick succession when we had players, we're going to go down there with none of them. We are in an absolute mess. You mentioned that players, that we've got this group of players and we might not have too many more in January. I mean, there has to be Premier League loans coming in January. There just has to. You know, we've got track record. I've watched 2 games this weekend on television. Burnley against Middlesbrough, Sheffield United against West Brom. I think we're up to 10 Premier League loans from them 4 teams combined. And look, they're 4 of the top 5 or 4 of the top 6 or whatever it is. That has to happen if at all possible.
But that would be presumably Premier League youngsters. So that's a lot of pressure on our youngsters.
But that's
to come
fine.
in and do the business.
It is. But, you know, you look at Cody Drameh 2 years ago. He was a Premier League youngster. He came in and he done the business. That's what Ben Doak is at Middlesbrough. That's what Sarmiento is at Burnley. That's what, you know, the geezer that we were supposedly after, whose name I can't remember, at Sheffield United, who scored the 2 goals against us. That's what he is. It seems to be working for them. Maybe that's the confidence that we need. Some young upstart with a bit of a swagger who fancies himself to come in and show people that, you know, they can do it. I watched Chelsea earlier on, and Cole Palmer's on a different level to anyone else, confidence-wise. You know, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that we're going to get him, but there must be an ocean of Chelsea players that want to get out and play some football because they're not going to get in ahead of him. For example, I mean, there's all sorts of talk that Southampton are going to allow the former Peterborough centre-back, Ronnie Edwards, I think it is, out on loan. I mean, we need to be in the market for that now, given that we've got no centre-halves left. You know, if we can get hold of him, he was bloody good in League One for Peterborough and played in the Championship for Peterborough as well. He knows the style and he's meant to be really good. There is one option. But you're right, we don't know what January's going to bring, but there is one thing we can change. And I don't think we can be far away from changing it because I just can't see how this can improve.
What do you mean?
The manager. The manager can change. And I just don't see how things could improve. We've got this situation now where managers saying one thing about a player, players posting a video on social media saying something completely different. I don't know who's thrown who under the bus or anything else, but Mengi could quite easily have come out and said, you know what, I've hurt my knee in training on Wednesday or whatever the date to toe the party line, but he didn't. He's gone on social media and pointed out that he should have had surgery in May. So basically, completely wiped out or thrown into question the words that Rob said about a freak injury. There's clearly a disharmony somewhere in amongst this lot, because otherwise Mengi could have just towed the party line and just said, yeah, sorry, I picked up an injury in training in midweek. I've had surgery. I'm going to fight really, really hard to come back. It all looks from the outside like it's a mess, and I'm not sure we can go forward anymore like this. Well, in fact, I know we can't go forward anymore like this because we are getting worse. And I mentioned in either the review of the Norwich game or the preview of this one that Swansea started a run of 13 games without any side in the top 7 being our opponent. This is the time of the season where we have to do something, because if we come out of this 13 games still in the same pickle that we're in, we're knackered, aren't we? Because you look at the teams that come to Kenilworth Road in the final third of the season, they're all the top teams with the exception of Burnley and Sunderland. I think we're at a situation where I can't see how we can go forward right now.
I'm just going to raise this to understand where you are. Earlier in the season, and not too long ago actually, you said you think Edwards was the man to turn this around and change it. Now, everybody should know my opinion on this. I said it in the last podcast, or maybe the one before that. I think if you don't allow people the capacity to change, given the evidence in front of you, then that's not really a helpful situation for anyone. So I'm not holding you to that statement, but you did say that, so now you're not in that place again.
Well, I also said coming away from Leeds, I was starting to think it, because our away form is so drastic. There was nothing at Leeds. It was roll over and hope we don't get spanked. And that's how I saw it. But then hope was offered at Norwich. That hope was extinguished again 7 days later in the very next game. There were shoots there to build on at Norwich. And if he'd looked to build on them, then I'd have been fine. Even if we'd lost yesterday, which, we've got to remember we didn't lose. It felt like we lost yesterday because of the balance of play, but we didn't. And I accept that. But we didn't build on it. And we're not building on... When we see something positive, we're not building on it. We just go back to what we were. And it's not working. It hasn't worked for 12 months. And you're absolutely right. We shouldn't change without giving the person the opportunity to change. But how long do you give the person the opportunity to change? Twice this season, we've got into a position where at home against Hull, we've played a back four. Okay, we risked it. We ran our luck crazy, but we kept a clean sheet and we won the game. The very next game, we go back to a back three and we get absolutely trolleyed at Leeds. It would have been as many as they wanted, and thankfully they only wanted 3. Then we go back to the back four, and but for individual errors, we definitely get something at Norwich. What we got, who knows? It might only have been the 2-2 draw, but we'd have got something from Norwich. Something to build on. 7 days later, we're back to a back three again. I'm all for giving people the opportunity to change, and I still really wish Rob could turn this round. But each time there's shoots of change, we change back again, and it's almost like a reluctance to change now. And I just don't see where we can go from here. Everything about that Mengi situation screams wrong to me. It really does. Someone's throwing someone under the bus, and I can't work out who it is. But
I've seen those views, obviously. You can see what people are thinking these days. They put it all on social media, and that's fine. So that's a gauge. I've seen people say that. Maybe if we played what he said, would that be?
Yeah, let's do that. Here's what Rob said. Here's what Rob said about the game, about Mengi, about scenes at the end and everything else in the post-match press conference, which James popped into and caught up with.
The game itself, really, really difficult. Hard to sort of get any kind of rhythm in the game. Still lots of basic mistakes, but found ourselves 1-0 up, and then fairly solid. Able to chat through a few bits at half time, and I thought actually the second half began okay. Similar kind of rhythm, they're going to try and take the ball, but weren't hurting us or anything too much. Weren't able to capitalise on 1 or 2 half moments, chances, set pieces, etc. that we had, and then they're always going to retain a threat. I think they deserved the equaliser, and frustrating from us because someone got their positioning wrong from the corner and allowed that. But anyway, if you can't win it, don't lose it. And we got something from the game. When clearly we weren't at our best. You can see no one's really performing at their best at the moment. So it was tough. It was really, really, really difficult day. We're all seeing the same game. I've probably got a bit more empathy for the lads, even though I'm frustrated as well, because I know what they're going through at the moment, and they're really trying, and you can see that, because if they weren't, we'd have gone under and lost the game. But they're trying, but it's hard to find that spark that we need, and that across the board. I thought there was a couple of actually individuals who stood out and did well today, and you mentioned Thomas's save. I thought Maka did really well in that back line today, some important headers, and Clicker showed 1 or 2 good moments. Tom Krause kept running and kept going, but we lacked some confidence with the ball, and turned things over too much, even though the pitch was really difficult. So yeah, it was a tough watch second half. Was for everyone. Look, we take a point. Really, really difficult day for many reasons, in the stands and on the pitch. So take the point and try and move forward. Supporters just want to support the club and want the club to do well and win, perform well and win. So yes, I'm not concerned by it, because in the end I can't affect that. And I'm learning to try and make sure that my headspace is taken up with things that I can affect and not the external stuff. It doesn't take a rocket science to see at the moment we're not playing great. So supporters want the team to play well and win. And unfortunately, in this game, if you're not winning consistently, then they're going to voice that. It doesn't matter what we've done before and what we've all achieved together before. It doesn't matter. So, you could see the disappointment there and the anger and the frustration. It's not nice to hear, of course it's not, but, got to make us work even harder. Teddens was a real sort of freak one. He's hurt his knee in a passage, just doing a passing drill, just passing the ball. Unfortunately, he's had an operation this morning, so he's going to be out for a number of months now. So, of course, we wish him well. Incredibly frustrating at the moment. Just another blow when we're on the ropes, and took one during the game with Amari'i as well. And so difficult period. But we keep fighting. I know it's a challenge and it's an opportunity for the next person. Then.
So that's what Rob said, particularly in line with the Mengi thing, training incident during a passing drill. Didn't translate from the training pitch to the football pitch, did it, based on our passing on Saturday. Here's what Ted and Mengi said in a video that he posted from his hospital bed on social media.
Hi guys, so I just wanted to update you all quickly. On the 19th of May last game of the season, I suffered a knee injury, which kept me out for a while, the most period of the summer. And I was advised to have surgery, but I decided against it. And I've just been battling on since. But obviously there becomes a point where you can't carry on anymore. So I've had my surgery now. The surgery is successful. Thank you very much to Andy Williams and the team. So now I'm on my road to recovery, and I can assure you I'm going to do everything I can and everything it takes to get back safely and get back to my best form as quick as possible. Thanks, guys.
So this just looks all wrong to me, Jimbo. So first of all, we've got a training ground incident, which might have happened, right? It might have happened, but even if it did happen, this is obviously an accident that was waiting to happen. And on the other hand, we've got a guy who's claiming he could have had surgery on May the 20th, who's now had surgery on December the 8th. If he has surgery on May the 20th, Luton don't kick a league ball for the better part of 3 months from that day. Let's say he has 4 months to come back. The worst case scenario, he misses 5 or 6 weeks. He's back in for the Watford game on October the 1st. Now we're missing him for the season, pretty much, I would imagine. He might be back by the end of the season, but he's going to have to get up to match fitness and everything else. What an absolute mess. I mean, firstly, it's the first time I've ever heard, and I don't know the ins and outs of it, so I'm only surmising, and I'm only giving my opinion, but it's the first time I've ever heard a player get to choose if he has surgery or not. I mean, who the hell chooses to have surgery? I mean, if you go to the doctors and the doctor says, well, you can have your tonsils out by hand or by, surgery, and you get the required anaesthetic, you're not going to go anywhere near the bloody hospital, are you? No one wants to go for surgery because you end up having to go into hospital, and we all know the state of the hospitals and everything else right now. Okay, he'd have gone private. I readily accept that, but you're still not going to risk something as serious as a knee if they're telling you that you don't have to, or the ball's in your court to choose it. I mean, the timing of it, it's not going to kill anyone. If he goes and has surgery, he misses a month of the season and we crack on. Of course, the elephant in the room is the transfer window situation, which that Torino thing blew up around the time that he would have been coming back, which we were led to believe in those programme notes last time out was purely unscrupulous agents, if I can get the word out. Where's the forcefulness of it all? How can you... I mean, Mengi's what, 21, 22? Someone tell him, for the good of you and the football club, you're under the knife tomorrow morning, chap.
Yeah, that's a question that needs to be answered, doesn't it? We got those comments you saw straight after the game from Edwards, and then not too long after Mengi posted what you've also seen on social media. I think we sort of have to be careful for now until we know the answers, and not fill in the gaps so much. And at the risk of taking pelters from somebody, just playing devil's advocate, or maybe that's not the right phrase, but looking at it from both sides. I think what Edward said is it was done in a passing drill. That could still be true. The discrepancy about him injuring it at the end of the final game of last season and then needing surgery and then didn't want to do it, there needs to be some answers around that as to how, like you say, how can that happen? Surely summer is the ideal time to have that operation and then come back, and hopefully it's not a really long one, but based on the fact that Jacob Brown and Marvelous Lacambra have both had seemingly innocuous knee injuries and didn't see them again for the rest of the season, you would have to assume that maybe you won't for this one.
Well, but also look at all the tackle that's on his knee in that hospital bed. You know, he's not just had keyhole surgery, has he? He's had full-blown surgery. You don't come back from knee surgery inside 3 months. Season's only got 5 more of it to run, and you're not going to throw someone in for the last few games who hasn't played very often, have you? So,
but just to keep it on what has said in the two camps, and obviously there'll be questions that will probably need to be answered about what he said. But both things could be true.
You're right.
Both things, that he injured it then and didn't get the surgery, and that he played on and maybe he's been playing with injections, and then he did finally damage it to the point where they said, right, surgery is a must now in a passing drill. So I wouldn't read too much into the two things there. But the obvious concern is, why did he not have surgery in a window when nobody was playing any football? That yes.
Well, also, yes, that is one concern, and I'm sure you or your colleagues will ask about that in press conference on Monday afternoon. I'm sure that will come up because, you know, we're all surmising as to the situation. But also, you've basically then gone into a situation where you've gone into the season with a geezer whose knee could crock at any moment, because we know that it's already on the go, with no replacement for that person or no option to replace that person. Okay, it's unfortunate that Burke is injured, Bell's injured, and all the others are injured at the same time. But it's not unfortunate that a bloke's just gone down injured when you know that he's not 100% anyway. He is going to get injured at some point. And I mean, this is also a season where we've been led to believe by England that Rue Waters has played with a broken foot and Alfie Doughty has gone back onto a football pitch and therefore come off of it with damaged ankle ligaments. These may all be coincidences, but they've all happened in the space of 3 months of each other. What is going on?
Well, yeah, and when you put it like that, they add up, and then obviously people are going to have questions because they don't look good when you stack them up together. I can understand why people are frustrated, because there's a lot that sort of doesn't quite tally with each other. That there needs to be some explanation on.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that need to eat a bit of humble pie with regards to Ted and Mengi as well, because there's an awful lot of people that have thrown the "he doesn't want to be here" tag at him. Well, actually, it looks like his indifferent form is down to the fact that the geezer's playing with a bloody knee injury, and it might, you know, who knows what the situation is with regards to that transfer, and you know how much that played a part in his mind, that he thought he was going to leave and didn't want to jeopardize it with that. That's also a possibility. But ultimately, we are now left here on December the 8th with a defender who's one of the best in the Championship when he's at his best, that we ain't going to see for the rest of the season. If again, based on, you know, most people expect him to leave the club at some point because he's good enough to play at a higher level, that might be the last we've seen of him. And the last 3-4 months we've seen of him, he's had one leg and a gammy knee. It's like, what on earth is going on? Of course, it all exacerbates because the form on the pitch is rubbish. If the form on the pitch was good, then people would just shrug it off and, okay, learn from it and move on. But we're not in that situation, because we're all starting to get panicky that the relegation battle that people within don't think we're in is becoming ever closer. It's now 2 points to the bottom two after the results of the weekend. Like you say, QPR and Pompey both picked up. Thankfully, Plymouth looked like an absolute basket case, and let's hope that remains the case. That's Plymouth, who, check notes, have already beaten Luton this season. What it does is it puts so much pressure on Tuesday night. You know, thankfully Stoke are nothing special, so we might get something on Tuesday night. But if it goes pear-shaped Tuesday night, Blackburn have suddenly picked up form. They've just beat Leeds, who couldn't have had an easier night against us if they tried. Then they've gone to Hull, who we struggled like crazy to beat, and they've beat them at the weekend. Don't get anything on Tuesday. You can't see, with the greatest will in the world with our away record, us getting anything at Blackburn on Saturday. And then you've got the Sky cameras down here on the Friday night against Derby. Like I say, mate, I'm just not sure. There's clearly not a harmonious camp. Confidence is one thing, but like I say, different messages coming out from all sides. That's never a good thing. All signs of prospects or potential or, hope gets dashed all too quickly. The football's getting worse. We're unbeaten in 4 home games, but we could easily have lost all 4, or certainly 3 of them. Cardiff were bad, weren't they? Performances are terrible. I'll take you back to the start of the season. Forget that stupid nonsense about automatic promotion that both the chief executive and the manager came out with. The other thing that the manager came out with was, we are going to play attacking, entertaining football. Well, where is it? I couldn't be any less entertained if someone came up to me and stuck a needle in both my eyes, it'd be more entertaining. In fact, this patch of wall behind us, which is drying out better than I thought it was going to.
How's it going?
No, was kind of on a par with what I was witnessing yesterday, and it was bloody cold. People were coming out of that ground. Now, whether I should sit here and say this or not, people were coming out of that ground and saying, if it's that cold on Tuesday night, I don't think I can be bothered to go. And I couldn't say to them, well, that's not the right attitude, is it? Because why would you? What is enticing you? If you haven't got a ticket on Tuesday night, what's enticing you to buy one? It's as sure as hell ain't the football. Might be the fact that we're in trouble and people want to go and support their team, and I really hope that's the case, because we need all the support we can get. Other than that, if you think you're going there to be entertained, I mean, Stoke ain't exactly entertainers either. You're going to watch a crap game of football. I just don't. Something significant has to change, Jimbo, and I think we are at the position now where I think we all know what that change has to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a viewpoint I've seen from a lot of people. Like I say, there's nothing and anything that I've read from anybody this weekend, when usually I sort of, I think some of it's a bit hyperbole. I don't have anything there, and nor would I want to argue against it. We've seen this story in football, not just Luton. So yeah, it seems like it's approaching that point. For others, it's been that point for a long time. But but whether that will change, I don't know, because we're not. There's nothing coming out from the club regards that. So we are just sort of filling in the gaps, I guess.
There isn't nothing coming out from the club with regards to that. And on one hand, you can say, that's good. But on the other hand, you can say that they're saving face in case they have to make a major decision sometime soon, i.e. how stupid did the whole board look for coming out and backing Tim Volter before he came here and then sacking him before the game afterwards. They've not put themselves in that situation, but at the same time, they've not exactly come out and said, and silenced all the doubters and said, look, Rob is here, we'll give him some funds in January and we trust him to get us out of this mess. There might be 1 or 2 hidden messages within programme notes, or the odd answer to a question at a Trust AGM that kind of hints it. But I mean, how many people are at the Trust AGM? 100, 150? It's not exactly reaching out to the fan base, is it? It's like, if there was a plan, a style of football, or some string that you could cling on to that this will change, then I wouldn't be in this situation. I would still be, please change it, because I really, and even now I still hope he can change it. I'm just not seeing anything that suggests to me that it is going to change, because I go and watch Luton play and take last Saturday out of the equation. Certainly in the last 4 home games, I've not really seen what our plan is. I mean, you mentioned earlier in this podcast, when you're coming up against a team that's got all the ball, you need to have something about you when you haven't got the ball. which presumably the starting point would be a counter-attack, right? How the hell were we meant to counter-attack yesterday with our 2 wide players basically playing alongside our back 3? No pace in this side whatsoever. I mean, this squad has got issues. Yeah, I see every single team we play against, even Plymouth, who are rooted to the bottom. They brought that number 7 on, pacey, we couldn't get near him. I can't see who the equivalent person is in this squad. It was Ogbenny, of course it was. No replacement there. Not for 1 minute suggesting we should have turned down £8 million for someone who we got on a free transfer from a club that was in League One, or is in League One right now. I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that. But ultimately, we are left with a squad that's supposedly going to play attacking, entertaining football that I wouldn't trust to put 3 passes together right now.
Yeah, it is a worry. It is a worry. Yeah, breaking out, there isn't that outball, really, isn't there? Isn't.
I mean, I should say there is pace in this side. If you look on the bench, there's Joe Taylor. There's Zach Nelson's not a slouch. Pelly can get across the pitch. I'm not suggesting that he's the answer from a pace point of view. But the starting 11, which doesn't seem to change, other than the same changes, from formation to formation. I just don't see. I don't see how it changes, and it needs to change because we're on a slope towards. I mean, I don't know. I don't think Rob was asked the question after the game, was he, about being in a relegation battle? It probably wouldn't have been the right time.
No, it was prior to the game. Yeah.
So maybe he's changed his mind on the evidence of yesterday. I suspect not, from what we heard. But we are now.
But yeah, we can't. I don't think you can come out and say it one way or the other because it damages confidence. I think. If you
can it be damaged anymore?
Well, I don't know.
Well, they can't
potentially.
We can't put 3 passes together.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It is all worrying.
There's nothing that's performing well here, Jimbo. The players on the pitch aren't performing well. The coach, I mean, some of them decisions yesterday was baffling, not least the leaving 3 substitutes on the bench. I mean, it's the start of a 3-game week again, and we've left 3 subs on the bench in those conditions where we've chased the ball around. We know exactly what happens on Saturday from here. Off the pitch, people are starting to ask questions because they're not being told enough things. Again, rightly so. I mean, they're not getting answers to legitimate questions. And then you can't... You're right. No one can come out and say you're in a relegation battle, but you can show that you kind of worried about being in one, or know that the potential is there that you could be in one without actually coming out and saying it. But everyone seems like, we find the positives in a 1-1 draw at home to Swansea, which I guess you've got to do. But, we've had a great week in training. We've had 49 great weeks in training in 2024, but we've won about 4 games of football. Something has to change, and we're in that. We seem to be in the washing machine. And the thing ain't stopping going round. We need it to stop going round. Pull the washing out and change it. And it ain't. Every time it pauses for 30 seconds, like at Norwich last Saturday, it don't give you time to then build on it and go back to how it was. And there's nothing there on the pitch. And that's the problem. You can't change 25 players. Crikey. What a touch it would be if we could. You can't. So therefore, what's the next thing that you can change? And I think we're at that situation now whereby, certainly if we don't win on Tuesday, I don't see how anything else can happen. Because if we don't win on Tuesday, you're not going to win on Saturday, I don't think. Of course, anything can happen in a game of football, as we saw at Portsmouth earlier in the season. But you lose your next 2, and those QPR and Portsmouth, and I've not checked the fixture list because I'm too scared to, but they have winnable games and they win them. And all of a sudden you're in the bottom 3. And then you've got Christmas where you've got 2 away games. We ain't getting nothing from Swansea. Yesterday showed that. Probably not getting nothing from Bristol City either, because we never do down there. Then you're going into January. I mean, you think you're struggling to attract players now. You ain't going to attract them for a relegation battle when you're in the bottom 3. Someone has to give, mate.
We've been, watching football and watching Luton long enough to see that is usually you're probably coming up to a crunch point. I don't think that's hyperbole to say that. If you look at for evidence of where's a point in which it does change, I guess you could look to the John Steele situation. A man loved for getting out of the conference, but when it got to, I think it was 20 or maybe the 21st game, that night against Northampton, wasn't it?
I mean,
it turned then, and
that was equal of, for me, that was equal of yesterday. That was a good team in the league, but nothing special. Just ran riot on us. That Northampton team were very good for the level. Ironically, they beat us with a set piece that we fell asleep on as well, if I seem to recall, from a free kick. But yeah, I mean, all the other teams around us are changing, getting themselves out of trouble. Hull have just changed now, gone and got the Reading manager, Ruben Selles, who you would imagine will get them playing because they looked really good without an end product. I just, like I say, I cannot see. I mean, if you sat here right now and you said to me, Kev, what style of football did Luton use? I don't know. Are we direct? No.
Well, again,
Do we play possession? No.
Yeah.
Are we counter-attack? No.
Again, it's caught in two worlds, isn't it? Because at the start it was keep the ball, play it around, try and...
Absolutely. We
try and
needed more
possession.
conviction then, didn't we?
And then that didn't work, so it's changed and they've gone more direct, but the direct isn't working, and now they can't keep the ball. So you've lost in either style of football. You're right. It doesn't seem to be. Everything seems to be more in hope than intention. Punt it up the pitch, see what happens, rather than play it through the thirds and then
Get
try
it as
and
far
work
away
some space.
Get it as far away from your goal so that your leaky defence can't leak. Well, spoiler alert, it's kept on leaking. I have to stress, I thought McGuinness was really good yesterday. Really good. I thought he was good on the ball. I don't even know how much of a threat that number 9, Vipotnik, was it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much of a threat he genuinely carries, but McGuinness snuffed out whatever it was most of the time. But do you know what highlighted the lack of confidence to me, right? Every single goal kick from the Kenilworth end never went past the halfway line, whether it's Kaminsky who kicked it or their goalkeeper who kicked it. Yeah, every single, even in the 90th minute, they had a goal kick. Our defence dropped 20 yards. Go on attack. You must have known after 90 minutes it's not coming in to our half. Go and attack the thing. Squeeze up and try. Well, we've just dropped off, and who gets the ball? Cullen or Eom or whoever it was who was on at the time. Surely we've seen this, and that's. It just feels like no one knows what's going on now, and that's why I don't see how it can change now, because players on the pitch aren't able to change it for themselves. I mean, we've got Carlton laying out a few lectures trying to get people going and things. That's not working now. Rob found a formation last week that looked like it worked. Binned it. Can't really look at that now. We're in a funk. And I can't see a way out of it under the present regime, really. I hope I'm proved wrong. I really do. I really, really do. There's enough evidence now in 19 games of football we've played well once. And it's questionable as to what Watford were that day anyway. The football's boring. Yeah. There's no semblance of style or intent to our play. And someone's got to pay the price for it. And as I say, it can't be the players who pay the price for it. And as much as it pains me, I think the time has come. Before Tuesday, probably counterproductive, I would imagine. Win on Tuesday, then he'll get Saturday, of course. I don't see us getting anything at Blackburn, so maybe it's 2 games and that's it.
I don't know about where you were sitting in the Kenilworth Road end, but obviously where I sit, there was boos at the final whistle.
Weren't anyone left around me to boo, mate?
I mean, yeah, there was a lot of people who were leaving early. It was cold, but I think probably, if you're winning, you would have stayed there. But
yeah, they're bored.
It's not fun. We've got this game coming up on Tuesday against Stoke, and I don't think anyone's particularly. You've already referenced some people questioning if it's cold. Why would you go? It's none of it's fun. And the entire situation is a horrible mess. It's exactly, I've said this before. It's exactly what I was fearing at the start of the season. People are at each other's throats. That's not fun. The football's not working. The tactics don't work. There's an injury crisis. The Mengi stuff in the last 24 hours has, left people scratching their heads, and there isn't an argument against any of it. So how football goes, and that's how it goes. But because there's been virtual silence on it, say for a couple of program notes, which don't seem to go one way or the other, you are left wondering whether it will change at all.
I mean, I should say, on regards to the program notes, I appreciate and approve the message of we want to play through this. But certainly since the ones in the whole program notes, we've got worse. And we didn't think we could after Hull. But we've got worse. There was nothing at Leeds. A little bit of optimism at Norwich, where the players picked up the gun and shot themselves in the foot. I'd say there was anything yesterday would be an exaggeration. And as I say, we're at a crunch point of our season. 12 games now without anyone in the top 7. If you make a change now, a new manager with fresh ideas, presumably a little bit of a fresh energy, because there isn't much of that. In fact, there's no energy around the club at all right now, really, on a Saturday at least. There might be from Monday to Friday. Has got a soft schedule to build his way up for some big games towards the end of the season. And if that manager has got that bounce and he's got that soft schedule and he's picked up, let's say he doesn't do the first 2, so he only has 10 of that schedule. Let's say he picks up 15 points in that schedule. That's got us out of trouble. That's got us onto 34, 35 points or whatever. You can limp your way home from there. To waste this period of a dozen games and hope that we play our way out of it, it's fine if we do, but the evidence, if the scale was slightly in upward curve, then yeah, let's ride it. But it ain't, is it? It's dropping like a gravity machine at a fairground. Certainly the hope is, even if the standard of football isn't, and it's only that this league's crap, that there's 5 teams below us and that Hull and Swansea haven't finished us off. It's nothing of our own doing. A little bit of fighting, throwing ourselves in front of the ball, admittedly. I'd love those program notes to be right, that we can play our way out of this. But what the eye test is telling us is that we can't.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. There isn't an argument against it, and I want to be positive and supportive. But
me too.
We see where this sort of stuff leads. And if anything, really, aside from it not being particularly fun, the Stoke game, I just feel like it's going to be this. It almost feels like a self-fulfilling prophecy anyway, because there's people and they've been banging on for a while. It's going to turn toxic. It's going to. Well, if you think that going into it, it's the way you want to behave,
yeah,
then that's where it will go. So
I don't think it will turn toxic, because I don't think there's enough people with enough energy approaching the game now to be toxic. If people are just resigned to what they're watching now. I said it coming out of the Leeds game. People were resigned to losing the next game. Lo and behold, we went and lost the next game. People are resigned to not winning games of football now. It's that lack of hope that has disappeared. And, the one thing you kind of clawed onto during this away run was, well, at least we're winning games at home. Okay, I know it's only 2 home games ago we won, but as we've referenced plenty of times, how, I don't know. And it's that, and that's a position. Now, we do have that situation that we had when we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, that changing the manager still leaves you with some players that may or may not want to play for the club. But at the very least, a new manager, fresh ideas and fresh energy and fresh approach can do is do what Rob did last Saturday and put them in a structure where they can at least compete in the division. It seems like Rob doesn't want to do that, because he did it last week and then didn't do it yesterday. He still had the same he had exactly the same personnel on the pitch, minus Jacob Brown, that he had to call on yesterday. He didn't have any injuries in between hand other than Mengi. Well, Mengi for Holmes is a normal replacement, isn't it? Baptiste had left the pitch by that point. So it's not like he didn't have the personnel to play that same formation that he played at Norwich yesterday. He chose not to. And that seems to be the common way. And ultimately, that reluctance to change has got us into the mess that we're in. And if change isn't going to happen from within, it has to happen from outside coming in, I think. And I think I was very, very late to the party on this. But having watched every game of football that we've played this season, and let's be honest, we've played well once in 19 games. Certainly, we've only offered up an attacking, entertaining approach like we were promised once in 19 games. I think the time's come to change.
I mean, I don't think that we were late to the party on that. I think we tried to explain there's extenuating circumstances for everything, but I think that the reasons for those and the excuses are running out, I guess, is what you're saying. So, we've had people tell us that we're being too positive, and I think that at the time it was the right thing. If there's things to cling on to, there doesn't seem to be that now. And so, yeah, it's a really difficult one to come at, because I thought that you get to Christmas and you see, but we're pretty much at Christmas now, aren't we? So it probably is getting to that time now. It does feel like there's a relegation battle coming. Well, we're in it now. And that's never good in anyone's mind, because people just want to see, they want to see wins, obviously. And it's going to be a tough couple of months.
I'm not even sure people want to see wins. They just want to see fight and an application and a plan. And, if we knew what Luton's style of play was going to be and we saw it trying to be played out on the pitch, I think people would get behind it. But whatever it is, we're not seeing it. It's certainly not attacking and entertaining like we were promised. And maybe someone comes out and says, well, look, this is the situation, bin that and give new expectation. I don't know, but I do know it can't go on like this. How's the Wolves doing?
No, not quite. We're still a bit painty, but
Well, we might have to watch paint dry again on Tuesday. So, let's see what Wednesday brings with regards to the paint behind us. That is pretty much it for this episode of the podcast. Begrudgingly, I have to give a shout out to Jimbo, who got the correct score of that game. I suppose there was some silver lining for you there.
it's a bit of a hollow victory at the moment, isn't it? When we've talked about what we've just talked about, which it's not pleasant. But I am points ahead of you, so there you go.
You are indeed, yeah. Well done also to Chris McKnight, 7164, Twats, LTFC, Luton G-Man Rock, Blitz and Soulful Hatter. You all went 1-1. And your spots have all been updated in this leaderboard. That is pretty much it for this episode of the podcast. Not a particularly positive one. There isn't a particular amount to be positive about. Let's hope for better on Tuesday night. Thanks, though, for watching or listening, however it is that you consume this podcast. Let us know your thoughts on the situation. Where are we at? Have we explained it fairly well? Are we right? Are we wrong? Let us know, and we'll do our best to action that.
Did you like watching that?
Was it more entertaining than what we watched yesterday?
What we said? I don't know.
Certainly.
I don't know anymore.
Indeed. Doesn't bode well, really, does it? But yeah, get your comments into us, and we'll take them all on board, as we always do. Slightly longer podcast than usual, but I'm sure you'll understand that, lots gone on. I should just say before we go, let's finish on a positive, right? The youth team. 13 goals.
Yeah.
Get them in.
13-2 against Notts Forest, yeah.
Notts County.
County, sorry.
Don't get them started. The cup draw's bad enough. I mean, this football is bad enough as it is without us having to run into that bunch of idiots next month. I mean, what?
I thought you said we were going to finish something positive.
What are the footballing goals? Oh, we are. 13 goals, though, in any game
Yeah.
of football is...
Also, the ladies having a 33, or was it 32 penalty shootout, penalty kicks in that penalty shootout. They got to play Pompey. They lost today, unfortunately, in the third round of the Women's FA Cup. But
And actually, by and large, all of the academy age groups seem to be winning games of football.
smashing teams, yeah.
Get them in.
Mm.
Can't do no worse, Jimbo. Cannot do no worse. 13-2. What's a game of football? Might go and watch the academy on Saturday rather than go to Blackburn.
Yeah, behind closed doors, that, wasn't it?
I have to go and stand on the flyover and watch it. That is it for this episode. Thanks very much to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for hosting our studio, to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs that you see on set. As ever, this is a 3-game week this week, so please do subscribe wherever it is that you get this podcast so that you get a notification as each one drops. They're going to be coming thick and fast as always. From much drier Jimbo than it sounded like it was yesterday, and myself, please let us improve, Town, please.
For me, it's the people and the spirit of the people as well.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people.